At this very moment, Iran is striking Azerbaijan hard. Here's how it's happening. What's important to mention here? There was a strike on the airport in the city of Nakhchivan. This is complete madness. And there was also a missile strike in the immediate vicinity of a school building. There have been a number of reported casualties as well. The Azerbaijani Foreign Ministry has officially responded and says they are fully ready to answer Iran. Ilham Aliyev is putting the army on combat. Alert! Also, what else is it that I want to say? Drones are striking Abkhazia. Iran has nothing to do with it. It's the armed forces of Ukraine at work. This is the Pritseli project. My name is Vladimir Timoshenko. Let's get started. So once again, the Azerbaijani Foreign Ministry says that one of the drones fell on the terminal building of the Nakhchivan airport and another near a school building. It is important to note that, in fact, in the previous day, it was reported that Ilham Aliyev, who has his own scores to settle with Vladimir Putin, put the army on combat alert at the border with Iran. And at the same time, since everything in our modern world is interconnected nowadays, Vladimir Putin met in the Kremlin with his close friend from Orban's inner circle, and at the same time, the current Hungarian Minister of Foreign Affairs and Trade, Péter Szijjártó. So, they met. It was not the most pleasant sight, as you can see right now on your screens. The notorious Kremlin maniac and his Hungarian accomplice agreed on the transfer of 2 captured Hungarian citizens who had fought in the ranks of the armed forces of Ukraine. It is also worth noting that Szijjártó announced the official summoning of the Ukrainian ambassador over what he called, quote, the forced hunt for Hungarians for mobilization. Putin also cynically stated about the possible cessation of supplies to European countries from Russia for the full implementation of the ban on purchasing Russian gas, which had been previously announced by the European Union. Now listen to what the nasty little Putin had to say.
You just said they plan in a month, the 24th is the last day, and from the 25th they will introduce restrictions on the purchase of Russian gas, including liquefied gas. And in a year, in 2027, there will be even further restrictions up to a complete ban. And now other markets are opening up. And maybe it would be more profitable for us to completely cease our supply to the European market right now, to transition our focus toward those markets that are opening up and firmly establish our presence there. And here as well, I want it to be perfectly clear, there is no political motive behind this. But if they're going to shut us down in a month anyway, or in 2, then it's better for me to stop ourselves right now and move to those countries that are reliable partners and establish ourselves there. But this is not a decision. In this case, it's just thinking out loud, as they say. I will definitely instruct the government to work through this and ensure we collaborate together with our companies.
Oh, Putin is clearly not thinking about that right now. It's all a pathetic spectacle, especially in the company of that well-fed Zarubin. Putin would do better to pay attention to what's happening in his own Moscow. Just the other day, air raid sirens were sounding there all day long. For now, it's just for training. Friends, you understand none of this happens for no reason. Look at the details, then let's decide for ourselves.
On the morning of March 4th, residents of the capital of the Russian Federation woke up to the sound of an air raid siren. According to the Russian Ministry of Emergency Situations, a scheduled large-scale test of the public alert system is being conducted in Moscow and other regions of the Russian Federation. Electric sirens and loudspeakers have been activated, and the broadcast of national TV and radio channels has also been interrupted for the test. Meanwhile, it has become known that Russian air defense likely shot down its own military helicopter while repelling a drone attack. This was reported by Russian military bloggers and Telegram channels associated with aviation. According to information from the internet, this happened on the evening of March 3rd in the Rostov region. Reports indicate that the helicopter crew was killed. There is no official confirmation of this information yet. The governor of the Rostov region has only confirmed the drone attack.
Last evening and night, the Rostov region was subjected to an air attack. Several dozen drones were repelled in 2 districts, Milarovsky and Tarasovsky.
Earlier, it was reported that on the night of March 2nd, a massive strike was carried out on port infrastructure in Novorossiysk, Krasnodar Krai, Russian Federation. As a result of the attack, 5 military ships were damaged. According to available information, the most serious damage was sustained by the minesweeper Valentin Pikul. There are also reports of damage to the ships Yeysk and Kasimov. According to preliminary information, as a result of the incident, 3 servicemen were killed and another 16 were wounded.
All right, Moscow, right now, as you already know, the Iranians are striking Azerbaijan, and at this very moment, shelling is also taking place in Abkhazia, but we'll talk about that a bit later. And now, another extremely important topic, and you understand what the main topic of this morning is. The thing is, the strike on Azerbaijan was not carried out with an ordinary Shahed drone, but with a long-range Araj-2. It is distinguished by a flight range of up to 2,000 kilometers, a warhead of up to 260 kilograms, and the ability to bypass air defense systems. And the Iranian Foreign Ministry has already responded quite harshly. I'll quote, Azerbaijan is ready to respond to Iran with a strike. So essentially, Baku is entering into a war against Iran. Well, you probably remember quite well, right, that Azerbaijan really did significantly reinforce its troops at the border. And here's another interesting twist. If you analyze the situation, yesterday, as you recall, Turkey intercepted an Iranian ballistic missile. And everyone perfectly understands that. Erdogan and Aliyev, the presidents of Turkey and Azerbaijan, have a very good relationship. And now it seems Iran is definitely going to feel very uneasy, to put it that way. So what exactly happened yesterday in Turkey? Our next segment is about that.
Turkey intercepted and destroyed an Iranian ballistic missile that was heading toward the country's airspace. The press service of the Turkish Ministry of Defense reported the incident.
A ballistic missile. After being launched from Iran, the projectile crossed through the vast airspace of Iraq and Syria, and was quickly detected as it was heading directly toward Turkish airspace. It was then promptly neutralized by the coordinated NATO air and missile defense elements stationed within the eastern Mediterranean region.
The Defense Ministry warned that all parties involved in the conflict must strictly refrain from actions that could lead to further escalation in the entire region. In addition, Turkey will continue consultations with NATO and other allies.
Any and all necessary measures aimed at protecting our sovereign territory and airspace will be taken with the utmost decisiveness and without any hesitation. Furthermore, we reserve the right to respond decisively to any hostile actions taken against our state.
NATO Representative Alison Hart has already condemned the attack and stated that the alliance firmly supports all its allies, including Turkey. As journalist Mikhail Gurevich previously noted on the air of the channel Igrianul Graham, Iran carries out attacks on a number of countries but refrains from striking Azerbaijan and Turkey.
The Iranians don't strike Turkey either. They even strike Iraq. But not Turkey. Why? Well, it seems quite apparent that it is for the same reason they are choosing not to strike Azerbaijan. Because they are genuinely concerned these guys won't be intimidated by a ground operation.
Meanwhile, the US, together with Israel, launched a new series of strikes on the Iranian capital, Tehran. Videos of the attacks on the city have appeared on social media. Earlier, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio warned that the strongest strikes against Iran are still ahead. Amid the attacks by the United States, Iran's strikes are decreasing. The number of Iranian ballistic missile launches is halving every day.
Yes, events are developing rapidly. How will Erdogan respond? It's still unclear. We wait. And now about the strike, again about Iran's strike on Azerbaijan. 2 people were injured as a result of the Iranian attack. This was reported by the Azerbaijani Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Let me remind you, 1 drone fell on the airport terminal and another in the area of a school in an Azerbaijani village. And now to the most important topic, the Russian-Ukrainian war. Here's the situation. Powerful explosions have occurred across the entire territory of the criminal Russian Federation. More than 60 explosions thundered over Saratov and Engels, where the airfield of Russia's famous strategic aviation is located. By the way, a large-scale fire broke out in one of Saratov's districts. Both cities were partially left without electricity due to damage to power lines. Unknown drones, as I already mentioned, are also attacking Abkhazia. And there the system is actively operating. You can see how this is happening right now on your screens. In addition, during the winter-spring counteroffensive of 2026 in the southern direction, Ukrainian forces managed to liberate about 460 square kilometers of territory. According to RBC Ukraine, this was stated by the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky. All the details have been compiled into one report by my colleagues.
Since the beginning of the year, the defense forces have liberated 460 square kilometers of territory. This was stated by the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, in an interview with the Italian publication Corriere della Sera. The president said that the Russian winter offensive had failed and that the Russian army loses tens of thousands of soldiers every month.
Putin lost his winter offensive. Now the Russians will try to launch a spring offensive. But I think they will lose again. A lot of soldiers. They will die in vain.
Earlier, the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of Ukraine, Oleksandr Syrsky, stated that in February 2026, for the first time since the Kursk offensive operation, Ukraine's defense forces regained control over more territory than the enemy was able to capture. He said that effective active operations are currently ongoing in the Oleksandrivka and Huliaipol directions. In addition, analysts from the Institute for the Study of War report that in Russia, during the last 2 weeks of February 2026, Ukrainian forces liberated more territory than they lost for the first time since the summer counteroffensive of 2023. The report notes the following.
Ukrainian forces have achieved a net gain, a total of almost 33 square kilometers from the 14th of February through to the 20th. And an estimated area of approximately 57 square kilometers from the 21st onwards, to February 27th.
Earlier, President Volodymyr Zelensky stated that according to documents containing Russia's military plans for 2026 to 2027, Russian forces aim to achieve the complete occupation of Donbass, advance in the Zaporizhzhia region, as well as toward the city of Dnipro and the Odessa region. According to the head of state, the aggressor country does not have enough forces to achieve these goals. Meanwhile, the armed forces of Ukraine have begun to widely use ICH-2 strike drones produced by the German company Helsing on the front lines. This was reported by Nyansa with a reference to the Telegram channel of the UAV developer. It is noted that German drones have been observed in several sectors of the front in Ukraine.